The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the dusty streets of Sandhaven, a small desert town nestled between endless dunes and jagged cliffs. The air shimmered with heat, and the faint scent of cactus flowers mixed with sand lingered on the breeze. It was here, amidst the quiet chaos of traders haggling and children chasing one another through alleyways, that Finn, a curious 9-year-old boy, spent his days exploring every nook and cranny. Finn wasn't like other kids in Sandhaven. While most were content playing games or helping their parents at market stalls, he had an insatiable curiosity about the world beyond the horizon. He would often climb to the top of the tallest building in town, the old water tower, and stare out into the vast expanse of golden sands, imagining what secrets lay hidden beneath them. His favorite pastime was collecting strange rocks and odd trinkets scattered by travelers who passed through the town. Each item sparked stories in his mind, tales of faraway lands, ancient civilizations, and perhaps even beings from beyond the stars. One particularly scorching afternoon, as Finn wandered near the edge of town where the wind whipped up spirals of dust, something unusual caught his eye. A figure slumped against a weather-beaten wall, partially concealed behind a stack of crates. At first glance, it looked like just another weary traveler seeking refuge from the relentless sun. But as Finn drew closer, he noticed something peculiar. Her clothing shimmered faintly, almost imperceptibly, as though woven from light itself. Her hair cascaded down her back in silvery waves, catching the sunlight in a way no ordinary human could. She appeared frail, her face pale and drawn, with dark circles under eyes that seemed impossibly large and filled with sorrow. She clutched a torn piece of fabric tightly around her shoulders, trembling slightly despite the oppressive heat. Finn froze for a moment, unsure whether to approach or run back to safety. But then she lifted her head weakly, meeting his gaze, and there was something so profoundly vulnerable in her expression that all hesitation vanished. Without thinking twice, Finn dashed toward her. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice tinged with concern. When she didn't respond but instead let out a soft groan, he quickly scanned the area for help. Seeing no one nearby, he decided to act. Digging into the small satchel he always carried with him, he pulled out half a loaf of bread wrapped in cloth and a flask of water he'd brought from home earlier that day. Kneeling beside her, he offered the food cautiously, unsure how she might react. To his relief, she accepted it with trembling hands, her fingers brushing lightly against his as she took the bread. For a brief moment, her touch sent a strange warmth coursing through him, unlike anything he'd ever felt before. She tore off a small piece of the bread and ate it slowly, her movements deliberate yet unsteady. After swallowing, she raised the flask to her lips and drank deeply, her breathing steadying ever so slightly. "Thank you," she whispered finally, her voice barely audible over the rustling wind. It carried an ethereal quality, melodic yet tinged with exhaustion. Finn tilted his head, studying her more closely now. There was something undeniably alien about her appearance. The faint glow of her skin, the way her eyes seemed to shift colors when the light hit them, but there was also a profound humanity in her gratitude. "Do you need more?" Finn asked, already reaching into his bag again. This time, he pulled out a handful of dried fruits he'd saved from breakfast. She hesitated briefly before accepting them, nodding slightly in acknowledgement. As she ate, Finn couldn't help but notice the elegant way she handled even the simplest actions, as if every movement were part of some intricate dance. Yet beneath the grace lay an unmistakable weariness, as though she bore a burden too heavy for anyone to carry alone. "Where are you from?" Finn ventured after a while, trying not to sound intrusive. The question seemed to catch her off guard. She paused mid-bite, her luminous eyes locking onto his. For a moment, it felt as though she were searching for something within him, weighing whether or not to trust this tiny human child who had stumbled upon her in such a desolate place. She began softly, her voice trailing off. Then, shaking her head slightly, she added, "Far away. Very far." Her words carried a weight that made Finn's chest tighten. He wanted to ask more, where exactly, why she was here, how she had ended up in Sandhaven, but something told him to hold back. Instead, he simply sat beside her, offering silent companionship as she finished eating. As the alien girl regained some strength, she began to speak in halting sentences, each word carefully chosen. "You have been kind," she said, her voice still carrying that otherworldly melody. Kindness is rare among many races I've encountered. Finn grinned shyly, scratching the back of his neck. Well, my mom says we should always help people if we can. Even strangers. Her lips curved into the faintest hint of a smile, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. Your mother sounds wise, she replied. Then, glancing around at the barren landscape surrounding them, she added, This planet, Earth, yes. It is harsher than I expected. Finn nodded enthusiastically. Yeah, this part anyway. We don't get much rain, and the heat can knock you flat if you're not careful. But it's home. He gestured vaguely toward the distant rooftops of Sandhaven. What about where you come from? Is it nicer? For a fleeting second, her expression softened, nostalgia flickering across her features like a mirage. It is beautiful, she murmured. Endless skies filled with stars, oceans that shimmer like liquid diamonds. But I cannot return yet. Not until I complete my mission. Mission? Finn echoed, leaning forward eagerly. The phrase sparked his imagination, conjuring images of galactic quests and daring adventures. She hesitated again, clearly debating how much to reveal. Finally she sighed, her shoulders sagging slightly as though releasing a great weight. I am looking for someone, she admitted quietly. Someone very important to me. My husband. He disappeared during our journey here, and I must find him before. She stopped abruptly, her gaze dropping to the ground. Whatever she intended to say next remained unsaid, swallowed by the oppressive silence of the desert. Before Finn could press further, a sudden commotion erupted from the direction of the marketplace. Loud voices shouted in anger, followed by the unmistakable clang of metal striking stone. Both Finn and the girl turned sharply toward the noise, startled. Without warning, 3 rough-looking men emerged from the chaos, their faces twisted with malice. They carried crude weapons, long knives and makeshift clubs, and they moved with purpose, scanning the area as though searching for something, or someone. They've found me, the girl whispered, panic rising in her tone. She scrambled to her feet, clutching the remnants of the bread and fruit Finn had given her. Stay back, please. Her plea was urgent, but Finn shook his head stubbornly. No way. You're hurt, and those guys look mean. Let me help. Before she could argue, he darted behind a pile of crates, motioning for her to follow. Reluctantly, she obeyed, crouching low as the men drew nearer. One of them barked orders to the others, pointing toward their hiding spot. Clearly, they weren't leaving without what they came for. Finn's heart pounded in his chest as he peered around the edge of the crate. Who are they? He hissed under his breath. The girl clenched her fists, her glowing skin dimming slightly as though drained of energy. Bounty hunters, she spat bitterly. They seek to capture me for ransom. If they succeed. She trailed off, but the implication hung heavy in the air. Just then, one of the men spotted them. With a triumphant shout, he lunged forward, raising his club high above his head. Acting purely on instinct, Finn grabbed a loose rock from the ground and hurled it with surprising accuracy. The stone struck the man squarely in the forehead, causing him to stagger backward with a curse. His companions hesitated, momentarily distracted, giving Finn and the girl precious seconds to retreat deeper into the maze of crates and debris. Run! Finn urged, tugging on her arm. Though weakened, the girl matched his pace, her movements surprisingly agile despite her earlier frailty. Together, they zigzagged through the cluttered outskirts of Sandhaven, dodging obstacles and narrowly avoiding capture. Behind them, the bounty hunters shouted threats, their pursuit growing more desperate. Finally, they reached an abandoned storage shed tucked away behind a crumbling adobe wall. Finn pushed open the rickety door and ushered the girl inside, slamming it shut just as the lead hunter rounded the corner. Heavy footsteps thundered past, accompanied by frustrated growls. For several tense moments, neither of them dared breathe, listening intently for any sign of danger. When the coast seemed clear, Finn finally exhaled, sinking to the floor with a mixture of relief and adrenaline-fueled exhilaration. That was close, he muttered, wiping sweat from his brow. Beside him, the girl leaned heavily against the wall, her chest rising and falling rapidly. Despite the dire situation, she managed a small, grateful smile. "You risked your life for me," she said softly. "Why?" Finn shrugged, grinning sheepishly. "Like I said before, kindness is important. Besides, you're cool. And you're looking for your husband, right? That's brave. I wanna help." Her smile widened slightly, though sadness lingered in her eyes. "Perhaps bravery runs in your blood," she mused. Then, straightening herself, she placed a hand over her heart and added solemnly, "If we survive this, I will tell you everything. Everything about who I am, and why finding him matters so much." With that cryptic promise hanging in the air, the two prepared to face whatever came next, bound together by shared peril and newfound trust. As the tension eased slightly, Finn couldn't resist asking more questions. "So, does everyone where you're from look like you? You're pretty different from us humans." The girl chuckled softly, the sound echoing like a gentle chime. "Not everyone, no. My people are diverse, but I'm special." She hesitated, then added, "I am Queen Leora of the Velari, rulers of the Lumina Galaxy." Finn's eyes widened in astonishment. "A queen? Oh, like a real queen?" Queen Leora nodded, a mix of pride and melancholy in her expression. "Yes, a real queen. But being royalty isn't always as glamorous as it seems. Especially now, when my kingdom needs me most." She paused, looking out through a crack in the shed wall. "My husband, King Zarek, vanished during our diplomatic mission to Earth. We were negotiating peace treaties when he was taken." "But why would anyone want to kidnap a king?" Finn asked, his young mind struggling to comprehend such political complexities. Queen Leora sighed deeply. "Power, revenge, greed, there are many reasons. Some factions oppose our efforts to unite the galaxies peacefully. They see Zarek's disappearance as an opportunity to destabilize our rule." Finn frowned, feeling a surge of anger towards those who would cause such harm. "That's terrible. No wonder you're trying so hard to find him." He paused, then added mischievously, "Does this mean I get to call you Your Majesty?" Queen Leora laughed, the sound warming the dusty confines of the shed. "Only if you wish, little hero. But please, continue calling me Leora. Formalities feel unnecessary given our circumstances, and your bravery today." Their conversation was interrupted by the distant sound of engines roaring to life. Peering cautiously outside, they saw the bounty hunters mounting hovercrafts, clearly intent on continuing their search. Queen Leora tensed, gripping Finn's shoulder gently. "We must move soon. These vehicles will cover ground quickly, and they won't give up easily." Finn nodded, determination etched on his face. "Then we'll be smarter. Faster. We'll lose them in the dunes." He glanced at Leora, noting her fatigue. "Can you use any powers or something? You know, since you're alien royalty." Leora smiled wryly. "I possess certain abilities, yes. But using them drains my energy significantly, especially in this environment. Still, I may have to rely on them if we hope to evade capture." She closed her eyes briefly, concentrating. A soft glow emanated from her hands, illuminating the dark corners of the shed. "I can create illusions, manipulate light. It might buy us some time." Impressed, Finn watched as she practiced forming shimmering barriers that distorted vision. "Cool. Like a superhero," he exclaimed. Leora chuckled again, appreciating his enthusiasm. "Something like that, yes." Together, they formulated a plan. Using Leora's light manipulation, they would create false trails leading away from their actual path. Meanwhile, Finn suggested utilizing his knowledge of the desert terrain to navigate towards a hidden oasis known only to locals. It was risky, but it offered a chance to rest and regroup safely. As night fell, casting long shadows across the desert, they set their plan into motion. Moving swiftly under the cover of darkness, guided by Leora's ethereal glow and Finn's keen sense of direction, they slipped past the unsuspecting bounty hunters. The thrill of adventure mingled with the urgency of their plight, forging an unbreakable bond between the unlikely pair. By dawn, exhausted but exhilarated, they reached the oasis. Nestled amidst towering palm trees and crystal-clear waters, it provided a stark contrast to the harsh desert surroundings. Collapsing onto the soft grass, Finn grinned up at Leora. "Welcome to paradise, Your Majesty." Despite the gravity of their situation, Leora allowed herself a genuine smile. "Thank you, Finn, for everything." As they rested, preparing for the challenges ahead, both knew their journey was far from over. But for now, surrounded by beauty and camaraderie, they found solace in each other's company. A queen and a boy united by destiny in the vast expanse of the universe. As the first rays of sunlight filtered through the palm fronds, painting the oasis in hues of gold and green, Finn and Queen Leora sat side by side, sharing a simple meal of dried fruits and nuts salvaged from Finn's satchel. The tranquility of the moment was palpable, a stark contrast to the chaos they had left behind. Yet beneath the surface, an unspoken understanding lingered, that their respite was temporary, and danger would inevitably find them again. Finn broke the silence with a question that had been nagging at him since their escape. "Leora, do you think your husband knows you're looking for him? Do you think he's okay?" His voice carried a blend of innocence and earnest concern that touched Leora deeply. She gazed at the shimmering water, her reflection rippling gently with each passing breeze. "I believe he does," she replied softly, her voice steady despite the turmoil within. "Zarek and I share a connection that transcends distance. Even now, I can feel his presence faintly, like a thread pulling me forward. But whether he's safe..." Her voice faltered, and she paused to compose herself. "That remains uncertain. The forces opposing us are formidable, and time is not on our side." Finn nodded solemnly, absorbing her words. "Then we'll just have to hurry, won't we? Find him before anything bad happens." His resolve was unwavering, fueled by the same adventurous spirit that had driven him to explore the desert in the first place. Leora regarded him with a mixture of admiration and gratitude. "You truly are remarkable, Finn," she said, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Most adults would flee at the mere mention of intergalactic politics and peril. Yet here you are, ready to face whatever comes next alongside me." She smiled, though her eyes betrayed the weight of responsibility pressing upon her. "But remember, this quest is mine to bear. You've already done more than enough." Finn shook his head vigorously. "No way. You saved us back there with your light tricks, and I helped distract those bounty hunters. We make a good team. Besides," he added with a cheeky grin, "what kind of hero quits halfway through the story?" Leora laughed, the sound carrying a bittersweet note. "Very well, brave one. Together we shall continue. But know this, the path ahead will grow darker and more treacherous. There will be moments when fear threatens to overwhelm us, when doubt clouds our judgment. Are you prepared for that?" Finn squared his shoulders, his youthful determination shining brightly. "I'm ready. We'll stick together, no matter what." "Right. Right," Leora affirmed, her voice firm with renewed conviction. They shared a meaningful look, sealing their pact without words. In that instant, the boundaries between queen and child dissolved, leaving only two souls united by purpose and hope. As the morning wore on, they discussed their next steps. Leora revealed fragments of information about potential allies scattered across Earth, sympathetic beings who might aid them in their search. Among them was a reclusive scientist rumored to possess advanced technology capable of tracking interdimensional signals. If they could locate this individual, they might pinpoint Zarek's whereabouts. But finding this scientist won't be easy, Leora cautioned. He operates in secrecy, wary of drawing attention to himself. We'll need to tread carefully. Finn nodded, already formulating plans in his mind. "Leave it to me. I know how to sneak around unnoticed. Plus, I've got a knack for solving puzzles." Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden rustling in the bushes nearby. Both froze, alert for any sign of danger. Slowly, a small desert fox emerged, its sleek fur blending seamlessly with the sandy surroundings. It sniffed the air curiously, then approached them with cautious steps. Finn relaxed, extending a hand toward the creature. "Hey there, little guy," he whispered, smiling as the fox nuzzled his fingers. Leora watched the interaction with fascination. Even in the harshest environments, life finds a way to thrive, she remarked, her tone reflective. Perhaps that's a lesson we should carry with us. The fox lingered for a moment longer before darting back into the underbrush, leaving behind a sense of fleeting peace. Inspired by the encounter, Finn turned to Leora with renewed vigor. Let's get moving. The sooner we start, the sooner we'll find your husband, and bring him home. With a final glance at the serene oasis, they gathered their supplies and set forth once more, venturing into the unknown. The desert stretched endlessly before them, a canvas of shifting sands and hidden mysteries. But armed with courage, friendship, and an unyielding belief in the power of kindness, they pressed onward, ready to face whatever trials awaited. As they walked, the sun climbed higher in the sky, casting sharp shadows that danced along the dunes. The rhythmic crunch of sand beneath their feet became a soothing backdrop to their thoughts. Finn occasionally pointed out interesting rock formations or shared tales of local legends, keeping spirits high despite the daunting journey ahead. Leora listened intently, marveling at the boy's boundless optimism, a stark contrast to the burdensome realities she faced daily as queen. Hours passed, and the landscape began to change subtly. Sparse vegetation gave way to rocky outcrops, hinting at ancient geological upheavals. Leora paused, scanning the horizon with keen eyes. We're nearing the coordinates where the scientist is said to reside, she announced. Be vigilant. This area is known for its natural defenses, hidden pitfalls and quicksand traps designed to deter intruders. Finn nodded, adjusting the strap of his satchel. Got it. Eyes peeled and feet steady. He glanced at Leora, noting the slight tremor in her hands. Are you okay? You look tired. She offered a reassuring smile, though her fatigue was evident. I'll manage. Manipulating light takes a toll, especially under duress. But rest assured, I won't falter when it matters most. Her words carried a quiet strength that bolstered Finn's confidence. Suddenly, a low hum filled the air, growing louder with each passing second. They exchanged alarmed glances as a sleek metallic craft descended from the sky, hovering ominously above them. Its surface gleamed with an iridescent sheen, reflecting the sun's brilliance. A hatch slid open, revealing a figure clad in ornate armor, their features obscured by a visor. Greetings, Queen Leora, the figure boomed, their voice amplified by some unseen mechanism. I am Commander Valen of the Galactic Guard. We've been monitoring your situation and wish to offer assistance. Leora stepped forward cautiously, her instincts on high alert. Commander Valen, while I appreciate your concern, I must decline. This mission is personal, and I prefer to handle it discreetly. Valen inclined their head, acknowledging her stance. Understood, Your Majesty. However, allow me to provide you with a device that may prove invaluable. A quantum tracker capable of detecting anomalies indicative of your husband's presence. Reluctantly, Leora accepted the proffered gadget, examining it with a mix of skepticism and gratitude. Thank you, Commander. Your aid is appreciated, though unexpected. With a curt nod, Valen retreated into the craft, which ascended gracefully before vanishing into the azure expanse. Finn stared after it, wide-eyed. Wow, that was intense. Are all your people like that? Leora chuckled, pocketing the tracker. Hardly. Most prefer diplomacy over dramatic entrances. Now, let's put this tool to good use. They resumed their trek, the tracker emitting intermittent beeps that guided their path. As twilight approached, casting elongated shadows across the rugged terrain, they arrived at the entrance to a cavern concealed behind a waterfall. The roar of cascading water masked their approach, providing a cloak of secrecy. Peering inside, Finn whispered, "Looks spooky. Think the scientist is in there." Leora nodded, her expression grim. Only one way to find out. With a deep breath, they stepped into the dimly lit cavern, the echoes of their footsteps mingling with a distant rush of water. The air grew cooler, carrying a faint metallic tang that hinted at technological wonders within. Deeper into the cavern, they discovered a sprawling laboratory filled with blinking consoles and humming machinery. At the center stood a diminutive figure, their back turned as they tinkered with an elaborate contraption. Sensing intruders, the figure whirled around, revealing piercing eyes magnified by thick lenses. "Who dares disturb my sanctuary?" the scientist demanded, their voice raspy yet commanding. Leora stepped forward, her regal bearing undeniable even in the flickering light. "I am Queen Leora of the Velari. I seek your expertise in locating my husband, King Zarek." The scientist studied her for a moment, then gestured for them to approach. "Come closer. Let us see what fate has brought you here." As they complied, the scientist activated a holographic display, projecting a complex web of data streams and star charts. "This task will require precision and patience," the scientist warned. "But if anyone can unravel the threads of destiny, it is you, Your Majesty." With that enigmatic statement, they immersed themselves in calculations, leaving Finn and Leora to ponder the unfolding mystery. Bound by shared purpose and fortified by newfound allies, they braced themselves for the revelations that awaited, knowing full well that the answers they sought might alter the course of galaxies forever. The hours turned into days as Finn, Queen Leora, and the enigmatic scientist worked tirelessly within the cavernous laboratory. The air buzzed with energy, not just from the machines but also from the growing sense of hope that had begun to take root in their hearts. The quantum tracker provided by Commander Valen proved invaluable, its beeping growing stronger and more consistent as they fine-tuned its parameters. Yet it was the scientist's intricate algorithms and Leora's innate connection to her husband that truly pieced together the puzzle. Finally, on the third day, the holographic display stabilized, revealing a clear set of coordinates hovering over a distant region of Earth, a remote mountain range shrouded in perpetual mist. Finn leaned closer, squinting at the projection. "Is that where he is? Your husband?" Leora nodded slowly, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Yes," she whispered, her voice trembling. "That's where Zarek is." She placed a hand over her heart, feeling the faint but undeniable pull of their bond strengthening with each passing second. For the first time since she began this harrowing journey, she allowed herself to believe that they might actually succeed. The scientist adjusted their thick lenses, peering at the data one last time before turning to face them. "There is no room for error now. These coordinates are precise, but reaching him will not be easy. The terrain is treacherous, and I suspect whoever holds him has taken great care to conceal his presence." Finn clenched his fists, determination blazing in his young eyes. "We'll get through it. Together." His unwavering faith seemed to bolster everyone in the room, even the usually stoic scientist, who gave a rare nod of approval. With renewed resolve, they prepared for the final leg of their journey. The scientist equipped them with advanced gear, thermal cloaks to shield against the biting cold, climbing tools designed for near-vertical ascents, and a small device capable of disrupting surveillance systems. As they packed up, the scientist offered parting words tinged with both wisdom and warning. "Remember, courage alone won't save you. Trust in each other, and never lose sight of why you're doing this." As dawn broke over the horizon, casting soft golden light across the rugged peaks, Finn and Leora stood at the base of the mountains, staring upward at the daunting climb ahead. The air was crisp and thin, carrying the scent of pine and frost. Leora took a deep breath, steadying herself. "Ready?" she asked, glancing down at Finn. "Born ready," he replied with a grin, hoisting his pack securely onto his shoulders. They exchanged a brief smile before beginning their ascent, their footsteps crunching softly against the icy ground. The climb was grueling, testing every ounce of their strength and endurance. At times, the wind howled so fiercely it threatened to knock them off balance. At others, the silence was so profound it felt almost oppressive. Yet through it all, they pressed onward, driven by the knowledge that they were close, so achingly close, to reuniting Leora with her beloved husband. After what felt like an eternity, they reached a narrow ledge overlooking a hidden valley cradled between towering cliffs. Nestled within was a fortress-like structure, its walls gleaming ominously under the cloudy sky. Leora froze, her breath hitching as she scanned the building. "He's here," she murmured, her voice barely audible over the whipping wind. "I can feel him." Finn squeezed her hand reassuringly. "Let's go get him." Using the disruptor device, they managed to bypass the outer defenses undetected, slipping into the compound through a service entrance. Inside, the atmosphere was eerily quiet, the only sounds coming from faint hums of machinery and the occasional echo of distant footsteps. They moved cautiously, sticking to the shadows as they navigated the labyrinthine corridors. At last, they arrived at a heavy steel door marked with cryptic symbols. Leora hesitated only briefly before pushing it open, revealing a dimly lit chamber. In the center of the room stood a figure chained to a pillar, his head bowed low. But even in captivity, there was no mistaking the regal bearing of King Zarek. His silver hair caught the faint light, and though his face was lined with exhaustion, his presence commanded respect. "Zarek!" Leora cried, rushing forward. The chains clinked softly as he lifted his head, his eyes widening in disbelief. "Leora, is that really you?" She fell to her knees beside him, her hands trembling as she reached out to touch his face. "It's me," she choked out, tears streaming freely now. "I've found you." Zarek's gaze shifted to Finn, who lingered awkwardly near the doorway. "And who is this brave soul accompanying you?" Finn straightened proudly. "I'm Finn. Just helping out." A faint smile tugged at Zarek's lips. "Helping out, indeed. You have my eternal gratitude, young one." Before they could say more, alarms blared throughout the facility, red lights flashing violently. Guards poured into the hallway outside, their shouts echoing menacingly. Leora sprang into action, using her light manipulation to create a dazzling barrier that blinded their pursuers long enough for Finn to free Zarek with a stolen keycard. Together, the trio fled the fortress, retracing their steps through the winding passages. The escape was chaotic, filled with narrow misses and heart-stopping moments, but their unity carried them through. When they finally burst into the open air, the cool mountain breeze washing over them, they paused to catch their breath, and to savor the sweet taste of victory. As they made their way back down the mountain, Zarek walked arm in arm with Leora, their reunion a testament to love conquering even the greatest odds. Finn trailed slightly behind, watching them with a mixture of pride and bittersweet longing. He knew this chapter of his life was drawing to a close, but he couldn't have been happier for the two royals. When they reached the outskirts of Sandhaven, where their journey had begun, Leora turned to Finn, her expression brimming with gratitude. "You've done more than help us find Zarek, Finn. You've reminded me of the goodness that exists in the universe, even in the most unexpected places." Finn grinned bashfully. "Just doing my part." Zarek knelt down to meet the boy's eye level. "Your courage and kindness will never be forgotten. Should you ever need anything, know that the Lumina Galaxy owes you a debt we cannot repay." With those heartfelt words, the royal couple bid farewell, stepping aboard a sleek spacecraft that shimmered like liquid starlight. As it ascended into the heavens, leaving trails of glittering dust in its wake, Finn waved until the vessel disappeared from sight. Back in Sandhaven, life returned to its usual rhythm. But for Finn, everything felt different. He climbed the old water tower once more, gazing out at the endless desert with newfound wonder. Somewhere beyond the stars, a queen and her king ruled wisely and justly, thanks in part to a small boy who dared to dream big. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery hues, Finn smiled to himself. Adventure had found him when he least expected it, and he knew, deep down, it would come calling again someday.